Welcome to all the growth learners out there. We are going to build a dark mode version of this Google Analytics 4 traffic source, or what you might call a traffic acquisition dashboard in Looker Studio. You can purchase an enhanced version that comes with page search for landing pages and a whole page for campaign reporting that includes engagement and conversions. It's available in both dark mode and light mode. To start creating your own Looker Studio dashboard, go to lookerstudio.google.com and click on Blank Report. When the report loads, you'll be asked to add data to your report. So for this example, we'll click on Google Analytics, and when it loads, you'll click on the account that you want, but we're going to use this account here for the Google Merchandise Store and click on Add. Click on Add to Report, and we can rename this. We'll call it GA4 Traffic Source Dashboard. You can name it according to whatever your web property is, but we'll just go with this. Now let's change the page dimension. So we'll go to Page from the top menu, click on Current Page Settings, Style, and we'll change this to 1475. And for the background color, under this page section, click on this paint can, and let's add a custom color. We're going to use this hex code, 212121. Click on Done. Let's move this chart down and create a header. We'll insert a logo, so click on this icon, this image icon in the toolbar, and we'll choose Upload from Computer, and we'll search for our logo. Let's use this one, and then we'll move it to the top left corner here, shrink it a bit, and then we'll add a title, a dashboard title. So click on the text icon in the toolbar and then drag a text box in your header. I'm going to copy this portion of the title, paste it in here, select the title, change the font color to white so we can actually read it, and change the font size to 30. We'll stretch this out a bit. Let's type this out. And then we'll decrease the size of the logo a bit. So we'll click on this line icon, choose line, and just underline the title. We'll change the color for this line. I changed the font to Arial and stretched the line out a bit. And then in the top right corner, we'll click on Add a Control from the toolbar and select Data Control. And then we'll create an area for this. We'll make sure to select Google Analytics 4. And the style for the text, we'll change this to white as well. And now you can choose to switch to other data sources if you wish. Let's also change the background color to this hex code, this color, and we'll round the corner to 3. Now we'll add 3 controls at the top. So go to the toolbar up here, select Add a Control, select Drop Down List. We'll set up our drop down control here. And in the setup, we'll click on the control field and search for channel group. And we'll change the metric to sessions. For the style, we'll change the text to white, the background to this color, round it out to 3 for the corners. And then for the text, let's change this to 18. This will filter the entire page by the traffic channel. Let's copy this and then move this over here. And for this control field, let's use device category. So we'll click on the field and search for device. There's our device category. And let's add a date control. So go up to the toolbar to add a control and select date range control. And let's just drag this way. We'll match the style with the white font and size 18. And then for the background, same thing. And then we'll try to match the width for each of these controls. Let's make some more room for the design of our dashboard. So we'll get rid of the data pane, and then we'll make this more narrow, and that'll fit our entire dashboard here. So we'll just click fit to width. And then for the select data range, under default date range, select the auto date range dropdown, select it again in this calendar window pane, scroll up, and we'll select last 30 days. Click on apply. And then for this table, we'll drag this down so we have more space up here. Now we're going to add scorecards. So click on add a chart from the toolbar, select scorecard, and align this to the left, and we'll drag to create a scorecard here. And let's change the style first. So click on style under properties, scroll down for labels, change the font color to white and the font size to 36. We'll scroll down some more, and for the background color, let's make it the same background color as the other elements. And then for the border radius, select 3. For the border color, we'll keep that. Actually, we'll change it to white from transparent. And then we'll go back to the setup, and for comparison date range, select previous year if you have data back to last year. It's especially useful if you have a website with seasonality. For example, you might expect more traffic around the holiday season or in the summer. So that's a good option to choose. Click on apply. You can also add a spark line. So click on add dimension. And for this dimension, we'll just select date. And you can see what the trend looks like for the date range. Let's resize this so we can fit 5 scorecards in this row here. Now, we're actually going to change the metric to users, but since we also want a scorecard for sessions, let's copy this scorecard and we'll move it over here. We'll change the first one to users in the property section. Click on sessions here and then search for users. We're going to go with total users. Then copy this scorecard. We're going to use the engagement rate metric for this one. We'll change this scorecard to average engagement time. They don't have a metric from the list here, so click on engagement rate and click create field. We'll call this average engagement time, and for the formula, type user engagement divided by sessions. For the data type, number, duration, and then click on apply. And for the last scorecard, this will be for conversions. So just select from the metric list, type in conversions. If you have an e-commerce site, you can change any of these scorecards. For example, you could change average engagement time to conversions, and the last scorecard you could change to revenue. Now we're going to resize the scorecards so they all fit nicely in this row. Underneath these scorecards, we'll create some charts for the top channels, the top traffic channels, a chart for users and new users, and a chart for conversions. So go back to the toolbar up here, click add a chart, and click on Let's use a donut chart. We'll change the dimension to channel group. Scroll down in the setup, and under chart interactions, you can turn on cross filtering. This means when you select a specific channel, then it'll filter the rest of the page by the channel that you select. Go to Style, scroll down to the Legend section. For the font color, we'll select white, and let's change the font size for the legend to 14. Let's move these down so we can make room for a chart title. For the chart title, select on the text box in the toolbar, and then above the chart, just drag a box here, and we'll type top channels parentheses users. Let's highlight the text, and we'll set the font size to 18, change the color to white. And then we can add a shape for the background, rectangle. Let's create a rectangle around these elements. And for the background, change the background to match the background for the other elements. And we are going to arrange. You can choose from the top menu here, the order, send backward, to make sure we can see our actual chart title and our chart. For the rectangular background, we'll change the border radius to 3, and then change the border color to white, and then select the chart and the title. Make sure everything's selected, copy, paste it, and then drag it over next to the existing chart. We'll call it users versus new users. So we'll click on this chart, click on the drop down next to the chart in the properties area, then select time series chart. We'll collapse this chart area selector, go to the setup, dimension we'll keep as date. Let's remove the breakdown dimension. And for the metrics, we'll keep the total users and then add a metric for new users. And then for style, let's change this blue color to something lighter, something that we can see more easily. We'll go over to the style panel. We'll go to the grid section, change the grid color to transparent. If you do want a little guideline, you can select something that's a bit lighter than the default. For example, you can choose a dark gray so it doesn't get in the way, or it's not too distracting from the line chart. And then we'll just enlarge the chart area a bit. Then we'll select this chart, the title, and the background, and then create our third chart here. Let's change this chart to show conversions. So we'll change the title, then click on the chart, go to setup, and change the metrics from users to conversions. And we'll change the second metric to conversion for first visits. Or you can select another metric if you want. Now we'll take a look at this initial table that Looker Studio gave us. First, we'll select one of the rectangles, the rectangular background that we used for one of these charts. Copy it, paste it, drag it down here, and then drag it across the dashboard. We'll right-click, order, send to the back so that our table appears in front. And now we'll just drag this and bring this down so we can add custom headers in addition to the headers that will already exist for this chart. And we'll stretch this out to cover the entire width. So we have 10 rows here, but you can still scroll through the table. And for this chart, in the properties, click on Setup, and we'll change the dimension to Session Channel Group. We want to use this one because it looks at all sessions and it works better with some of the metrics that we're going to add. So for the metrics, we're going to add sessions, and then we'll add some user metrics along with some behavior and conversion metrics. Depending on what kind of site you have, you can choose total revenue if you're making money from ad revenue, or you can just choose purchase revenue if you have an e-commerce site. Now we're going to adjust the width for these columns. Let's also include a summary row at the bottom. And for the header background, let's change it to the same color as the chart background. But for the table header, we'll change this to white as well so that we can actually see it. Scroll down, and in the table body, we'll remove the row numbers. But let's go back to the setup, and we'll enable cross-filtering for the charts. So we can filter the whole dashboard according to what we select here in this table. Now let's go back to style, and for each of these columns, since we have 9 columns of metrics here, we'll change these metric columns into heat maps so you can easily see where some of these channels, these traffic channels, are performing better according to specific metrics. For example, for column 1, that is for sessions, we'll turn this to a heat map, and then we'll change the color here. Let's change it from blue to a yellow. And let's use this lighter one. And then we'll do the same for each of these columns, but with different colors depending on what type of metric it is. Then we'll change the decimal precision for any metrics with decimal places. For example, we'll change the percent for engagement rate here, column 4, by clicking on the drop down for decimal precision to 1. We'll do the same for views per session and conversion rate, and then for purchase revenue, we'll just round this to the nearest dollar. Scroll back up to the style panel, and we'll enable wrap text for table headers. So that way we can actually read all of the table headers in our data table. And we'll just stretch some of these out to fit the headings into 2 rows. And let's adjust the widths for some of these other columns. Now we'll create section backgrounds for these different types of metrics. So we'll create a section for acquisition, the first 3 columns here, one for behavior, the next 3, and then one for conversions. So for the table, we'll first make sure that we have a clear, transparent background. So we'll click on Style, scroll all the way down to the background and border section. For the background color, we'll select transparent. Then we'll select the background for this entire section here. Copy, paste it. Adjust the size for the acquisition section. We'll send this to the back, so right click, order, send to the back. And then for the background color, let's select something darker. So let's try this black. But then for the background of the entire section, let's send this one to the back. So then it brings this one forward. And for the border, we're going to select transparent. And let's copy this text box here, paste it, we'll drag it over to the acquisition section and rename it to acquisition. And let's change the font size to 16. And we'll do the same for the other sections. We'll create a title for behavior, and then create a title and a background for conversions. We expanded the height of the table to fit in 10 rows, but what we'll have to do now is increase the height of the entire page. So click on Page, Current Page Settings, Style, and we'll change the height here from 1475 to 1700. And that looks like it should fit in another table. So we'll copy this entire table here along with the headings and paste it We changed the title of the table to landing page performance and changed the dimension from session default channel group to page path and screen class. And then we got rid of most of the metrics and just left session start, total users, and engagement rate. For session start, you would need to add the metric for event count and then rename it to session start. And then scroll all the way down to the bottom to create a filter for the entire table. And for this filter, we just called it landing pages, use the conditions for include, event name equal to, session underscore start. And that filters the entire table for landing pages. Scroll back up and we'll make sure our decimal places are set to our liking. So we'll change this engagement rate scorecard to 1 decimal place, click on style, under primary metric, change the decimal precision to 1. And I've noticed that some of these whole number scorecards may include decimal places as well, so I'm going to change this to 0. You can purchase a version that allows you to search for specific landing pages, and it'll provide you with a separate page for campaign reporting. But now that we're done, let's go to the top right corner and click on View. We'll take a look at the dashboard in action. So we'll click on the session default channel group control, and we can select specific channels where the dashboard will update for that channel that we select. Then we can go to device category, and we can also select a specific device category for mobile. And we can add another traffic channel here. We can reset it, use this button at the top to do that. And with the chart, you can click on a specific channel group as well. Anything from the legend or from the chart itself to filter the entire dashboard. As you can see, when you hover over the data points in the charts, you can view the numbers for each metric. You can also use any of these tables to filter the dashboard, including the landing pages shown here. For the data tables, there's a metric that's designated as the sort metric. So in this channel performance table, it's the sessions metric as indicated by this arrow here. You can sort it by descending order or ascending order, or you can click on different metrics to sort the table by those metrics as well. If you click into the edit mode, you can see in the setup, there's the sort section. So you can also add another metric for a secondary sort. You can share this report with stakeholders. You can schedule a delivery, an email delivery at the frequency you desire. You can share a link to the report, or you can download the report. An important thing to note is to be mindful of the traffic your Looker Studio dashboard receives. The reason being is that any report with Google Analytics 4 data is subject to GA data API quotas. So you can check your token usage by right-clicking on the report canvas and choosing Google Analytics token usage, or you can check it for a specific component by clicking on the 3 dots for a chart or a scorecard or an element and choosing Google Analytics token usage. This will give you the report for token usage on the component. You can click on the report tab to see the token usage for the entire report, including how many tokens have been consumed, how many tokens have been saved by caching, etc. If you run into quota issues, you can try reducing the number of charts on each page, extracting the GA4 data, or you can export the GA data to BigQuery and then use the Looker Studio connector for BigQuery and create your dashboard that way. You can use a partner connector like the one linked to in the description. You can also wait for the next day so that the quota refreshes.
So if you found this useful, please like, comment, subscribe. And if you want more content on digital analytics, including tracking, reporting, analysis, we'll see you in the next episode.